That's
I'm
what
so
people
random.
call it about. They say I'm random.
That was just for you.
No,
You never watched Janae eat anybody.
yeah. Thank you to Shop Envy for sponsoring this episode. Okay, so we're going to get into talking about kink, BDSM, how we got into it, some things that we like about it, some things we don't like about it, where we are now with it.
Cam,
starts
hold
off.
on. Took notes. I know. I had little notesy notes. You all right over there? You're bouncing all around.
Yeah, I'm kind of moving around a little bit.
Okay. Transition. Anyway, we want to talk about kinks. First things first. I want to talk about kink versus fetish because a lot of people get that wrong. Have a little educational moment. A fetish is something that you need to occur in order to be gratified. Kink is something that's just like, I like that thing. Like, so like, rope is a kink, but it's not a fetish because I don't need to be tied up for things to be good.
Yeah.
If you know what I'm saying.
If you know
also,
what I mean.
Will you angle your webcam up? Because I can't see your little eyeballs and I don't like it. I was just looking at your mouth and it's very disconcerting. Thank you so much.
How's that?
Much better.
Oh. You can't see the dog now, but hey, too bad for you.
Well,
okay.
Sacrifice for me. Anyway, so obviously some people have both kinks and fetishes, but I think a lot less people have fetishes than they think, and it's a term that is misused.
Yes.
I digress. So just diving into it, how did you come upon kink? How did you end up in whatever kink community stuff, things like that? What's your kink coming up story?
I essentially just met someone that did rope and was like, oh, this is cool. And then got brought into it that way. I don't have a crazy coming in story, honestly. It's really that simple. I just kind of was like, found someone that was doing it. And then they were like, started tying me. And I was like, this is cool. And all the people inside of it were neat. So I just was like, oh, yeah, let's do it. And that's really
so you you got introed right into like kind of an established zone.
Yes. It was easy. And then also being a bottom, it was easy to just kind of come in and get tied. Right. And I had movement education. None of this is right, by the way. This is not how we should audit if we should tie with a bottom or not, with rope bondage specifically. But I had movement practice. So it was easier for me to be tied, I suppose. That's not even the right way of saying it, but I was just very gung-ho with it. I compared it in my head to aerial type of things and stuff. And
you had a body awareness is what you mean by you had movement.
Which is, again, that is not the way to audit if someone should be tied or not. But it was. So yeah, that's kind of how I got into it. But it's nothing crazy there.
Yeah. I mean, it doesn't have to be crazy either. I think a lot of people do have that experience in getting into whatever kink, not necessarily just rope, but whatever thing. And it's either that where it's just like, yeah, it just happened, or it's like bad.
Yeah. Well, I mean, looking back,
mine is a little, yeah.
Yeah, I was never. Yeah, I don't think I have your experience, which you can share if you want.
I didn't know anything about kink and stuff really. As a teen, I knew that I liked a certain type of visual media from kink.com.
You mean GIFs?
Yeah, visual media. Yeah. But then I didn't know terminology and stuff. And then I met a gentleman when I was 19, and he was in his later 30s,
Yeah.
and he became my dom person,
Yes.
which led to like a essentially 24/7 DS dynamic thing where like I would go visit and like had rules and would be constantly like chained or whatever. No personal pronouns, things like that. And that was my intro into like
Yes.
kink and BDSM and stuff. Which a lot of it was fucked up and abusive and stuff, but I am grateful for some of it because it taught me pain processing. That was a big part of my training.
I want
And I
to
like that.
I want to be clear that this is not glorifying this experience.
No.
Because this was a bad experience. And this is
Yes.
how a lot of people are preyed upon to be indoctrinated into the experience of saying, I can heal you. I can teach you all these things. I have a skill set. Come with me. I know stuff.
Yes.
Look at this cool community with air quotes. They're going to keep you safe.
Well,
right?
That's the thing.
So
with mine, it was even worse because there was no community.
Yes. And that's how you got on the rope as well, right? Like everything you did was very insular, it sounds like.
Yes. Yeah. So like, I do recount like my getting into kink in like a very like level-headed way, but it was, make no mistake, it was fucked up.
Yeah.
It is a thing that happens consistently where someone uses their position of power, or like they're like, I know more about this thing. Come and I'll show you, like whatever, with someone else. And that person just kind of like blindly follows, like I did, being a 19-year-old who didn't know anything about it. I was like, oh, wow, yeah, sure.
And I essentially did the same thing. It's very, very different, but it's in the same breath.
Yeah. And I think introing in that way will always open you up to like the possibility of abusive dynamics and putting yourself in harm's way. And that's not how all people get into kink and stuff. But there is something about kink that lends to the possibility of abusive power. I don't know how to word that.
Well, we're just jumping right into this without anything else. But my view on that is it's one of the only things that exists where people have a hobby that they love. Very few people have kink and BDSM as their jobs. Very few. Mm-hmm. Even you and I don't have that as our income, right? Very few people have their income on that. It's a hobby that people really, really love. But it's also a place where if you're a sport fisherman and you do some bad things, your name is your name. You have a life outside and it's connected to sport fishing. Whereas with BDSM, it is not. You can wipe the made up persona you have online, and then you can go somewhere else and do the same thing. And it's the only hobby where that really happens.
And even then, people don't wipe names. Like people just move and and the same thing.
Yeah. And then also having the structure of a community, big air quotes, to keep you safe makes a false sense of safety. It's like dungeons look like Apple stores. The inherent risk isn't seen when you walk in, whereas they didn't used to look like Apple stores. So you walked in, you're like, oh, I might not be safe here. But now there's pillows everywhere. So it's like, how can anything bad happen here? Right? Like,
now there's a cuddle zone.
Yeah. So
all that to say, we do love kink and stuff.
Yes.
But it is somewhere where you need to be a bit more guarded about who you're interacting with, who you're trusting with your body and your brain in terms of play, and especially like long-term power dynamic things, whatever. Because when someone abuses their place of power in those settings, it will really fuck you up.
Yeah.
And it happens often.
It does. And it's all based around ego. That's kind of the thing that I've seen as a through line, is it's all ego based.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I feel like a lot of the vernacular around how we talk about people, like a top or a bottom, fine, but like the term
Mhm.
like rope bunny, like weird.
Infantilizing.
Yeah, or like these like kind of how we talk about people who are the bottoms. It's not with as much decision making power as people that
Mhm.
are topping someone in a scene.
Yeah.
And that's kind of weird. I think my other issue is that in how we've taken rope bondage in the West and we've kind of flipped it on its head. I feel like we're taking these things that we see and we're doing it to models with harnesses that aren't made for it's not the right TK to have in this inversion, and
Mhm.
it's not the right anything. Um and that doesn't
Oh, yeah,
work.
like different shapes and stuff that, like, those things are harmful in.
Yeah, exactly. Like you
Yeah.
need a different harness if you're going to do that stuff. Whereas even with the way that Japanese rope bondage is, when people are tied, it's a completely different thing that we look at, and we adore this idea of the woman having no power and no say and all this kind of stuff. But it's a completely different world here, and
Yeah.
it just leads to massive abuse. I don't know
I
how to
think
say
that's
that stuff,
also
but
no, I mean, that's a statement right there. I think that's also something that, like, in the evolution of kink and BDSM over time, and we're just really diving in here from the initial, like, cookie cutter question of
yeah.
how'd you get into kink? Uh, is there's something about all this stuff being online and people seeing it and doing the I want to do that,
Yeah.
and then just like going for it with no education or uh just education like online, which can be fine, but I do think needs to be supplemented with in-person education,
Yes.
especially depending on what the thing is you're talking about. Um, but that also lends to the lack of safety surrounding it because, like, I post something of me getting like my ass beat online or something, and then people want to go try it, but then like these people go do it and they don't know like anything about impact play, anything about the aftercare for bruises or like where to hit, where not to hit,
Yeah.
yada yada. It like breeds danger in a lot of ways. Whereas like kink with young internet or like whatever, people like were trained.
Yeah.
Uh People learned by going and watching or like whatever, seeing demos or being a part of like a community like the like leatherman community, whatever.
Yeah.
So I do think the internet really doesn't help in terms of safety is my statement.
I look at a thing like censorship, and I've never really cared that much about. I just look at it, I'm like, Instagram, this is what you can post on Instagram. This is what you can post on
Mhm.
Facebook. This is what you can post here. I don't really look at it like, I wish I could post more on Instagram or
Yeah.
something. But I do think that the thing that it has done is it takes away all the context of
Yeah.
how we get somewhere, and it's sanitized in a very bad way. Because
Mhm.
you look at you in a rope photo, but you miss all the nuance of how you got there, how long you were there, what adjustments had to be made, the whole journey up to it through learning. You really miss all that kind of shit. And
Yeah.
that's,
It also misses the nuance of like interpersonal relations
yeah,
and how people like us, like there was a long time of posting rope photos where I was in a terrible fucking place. And
yeah,
like maybe the person I tied with, I wasn't in a good place with, but I posted the photos because I was like, I have to post a pretty rope picture,
yeah,
whatever. And then people are left out of that narrative, that personal narrative, and have no idea what's going on because online we're forced to present a certain thing.
yes.
I don't know what the point of that is.
No,
Anyway,
it goes along with what I was saying. I mean, it does, it makes
yeah.
total sense. Um, but it is hard because entering a scene, you don't know any of this stuff until you kind of go through the wave. And I think we both jumped into this because it's both in our minds. because we both just took a break. We're both kind of getting our little tiptoes back into it. Get up here. Come here.
Little baby.
That's a baby. We're both getting our little tiptoes back into it. For the audio only listeners, there's a very cute baby.
There's the cutest little Italian greyhound.
She's a whippet.
Oh, a whippet. I'm so sorry. I don't know the difference. Oh my god, that was so cute.
Now she's sitting. It's very cute. She wants to go out. She's being a rambunctious baby. Anyway,
it's all right. She's got to wait a half hour.
Anyway, so we're both getting back into it, and yeah, you don't know this stuff until you go through it, and it's hard because, like I said, people that are into kink and BDSM, it's a hobby. It's a hobby that we love. And a lot of people are going to be angry that I'm calling it a hobby because it means a lot to people, but it is a hobby. And in a hobby, you can't build community around stuff because you have to leave it and go do your job and do your life and do all the different things that you do. So it's really up to the communities to initiate people properly. We should be skeptical of tops that want to tie immediately with new bottoms, and we should be skeptical about new bottoms that want to tie with new tops, or do anything, do impact, do whatever. Both people, it should raise a red flag, and we should say like, hey, you should go and get some education first. But that's really difficult to monitor at a rope jam. Yeah. Right? I don't know a single person.
It's also putting the responsibility on people to like take someone under their wing and do this shit, which like, again, because it's a hobby, not a lot of people are like,
well, it shouldn't be a community thing, or sorry, it shouldn't be a single person thing. It should be a group thing. It should be the Los Angeles rope scene could intake people, right? And like we have DMS, we have stuff like that, but there's still a barrier of, it's much easier to contact someone on Instagram and say, hey, your rope's really cool, will you tie me? But then it's up to the top to be like, no, let's grab coffee, you know? I think that might be another thing I want to say is that yeses and nos are very different. And if someone tells me yes, I'm always skeptical of that versus someone saying no. Because yes can mean a billion different things. Yes can mean yes, maybe. Yes can mean yes in this situation, but no is strong. So
do you mean in terms of play or how do you mean?
Yeah, in terms of anything, you know, in terms of life in general, but also especially play. I see a lot of people negotiate, and I use air quotes of that too, on the tatami mat while the top is getting out the rope and like setting it out about if they want to tie or not. I'm like, you've already said yes. You're making that person say yes. Right? So I feel like that's something else that we like, I'm noticing that I got put into a lot of situations, especially at cons, that I didn't really want to be in, but I couldn't say no in the way I wanted to because I was already saying yes by being in the situation.
Yeah, there were definitely same, and there were scenes that I did. Like there was one, not even rope. I'm into rough body play, and I know a lot more about that now than I did at this point. This was years ago at one of maybe my first con that I went to in Chicago, oddly. But I did a rough body play scene, and like I thought I knew what I was saying yes to or negotiating for, but this person I played with had like, you know, fucking like 15 years of experience to my like 2. Like, and none in rough body play did I have experience. I was just like, I like being hit. And I'm not saying it's like all their fault. I'm not saying it's all my fault, but like the lack of negotiation around that and how I got fucked up from that scene. Like I got punched in the spine. Like I was like hit in places that now I negotiate.
You shouldn't be hit there.
And these are things that I now negotiate, even in adult work, I'm like, don't hit me in the back of the head.
Yeah.
Like, you know, like I know, right?
But you have to say that stuff. Yes.
Yeah. So like that just goes with the you don't know until you've experienced this shit.
Yeah.
Of like,
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's
And
also
that does suck.
It's also hard too because you want to be in a situation where you're like, yeah, I can do it all. You want to do it all. That's why we're doing it. We want to end it.
Yeah.
We want people to be like, holy shit, I can't believe you did that. Right?
Yeah.
So getting the shit beaten out of you in a hotel conference room, which is so
Jesus
funny
Christ.
to think about, right? Like you're in a...
It's nuts.
Anyway, by someone is like, you know, you want that. And it's so difficult because I don't know. But you know, it's just is fascinating because when you tie with someone, I mean, I mainly do reps. I say tie all the time. But when I tie with someone who's really, really good, my physical well-being is never compromised, but I still leave it and I'm like, God damn, I did it.
That's literally
right.
How, like, Kiss Me Deadly Doll. That's just like...
I tried not to say her name specifically because this whole podcast is just us
jerking her off.
Yeah. But like she does that.
Well, it's topical. You just tied with her so many times.
I
and she used to be one of my most consistent tying partners, and I miss tying with her a lot.
Yeah.
Hope to again soon.
Because I've never felt like scared for my
yes.
body. I mean, I felt scared, but I've never felt like I'm going to be hurt. Right.
Yeah.
But she can still put the pressure up to 11.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wish I could have identified what was good and bad bondage earlier on. And I really couldn't.
Absolutely.
I didn't know. How would you know? It's a weird thing.
Yeah. I look back at photos of my early things and I'm like, how did I not get like really, really injured by what this person was putting me in like back in the day? It's like wild. So segue question-ish. From you getting into kink, BDSM, whatever, how has your like mindset changed? Because we both have like kind of similar trajectories where we like dove into stuff, went through a bunch of shit, took a break, and are now coming back as kind of different people, certainly with different mentalities. So like how has your like approach to kink and stuff like that changed?
Far less partners, far less doing it, and I'm only doing it with the people I'm like, holy shit, you're great at it.
Yeah.
That's it, right? Like, and I'm doing it for me. I'm not doing it for the gram, which is what I did it for, you know? It's for me. What about you?
Yeah. I mean, like, exact same answer.
Yeah.
I got into it as like a lost little puppy, looking for like someone to like have me in a place and to feel like I belonged in a place or whatever. And then I was making it my life because of Instagram and social media and stuff.
Yeah.
Like I was like, well, this is my personality. Like I'm a rope person. This is what I do.
Yeah.
And then that made me neglect entire other parts of my personality.
Yes.
Like most of them.
Yeah.
So I completely backed off and now I'm the same. I tie with like no one basically. Like I have tied with Kiss Me Deadly Doll in the past year and like would tie with a few other people. I play in terms of BDSM and stuff in a very different, more confined way. And I learned fairly recently that I no longer have the mindset for like a long-term or 24/7 DS interaction.
Yeah.
Like when I was younger, that was like the like dream. Like it was always like, oh, just like do.
I know.
I want to do this all the time. Even long distance texting. I want to be blah blah blah. And then I didn't do that for a long time, and I retried it recently as a 33-year-old and was like, oh shit, this ain't for me anymore.
Yeah, this ain't it. It's difficult to have a life and to do things and have a CNC or a 24/7 dynamic. The two things just aren't congruent. Like
Yeah.
you're like, we're trying to deal with frugally farms all day long, and like, it's like they're the powerhouse that they are. I think you can't be in a
Yeah.
24/7 with that.
It's overwhelming. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, sorry. It's like a buzz.
Oh, that was Neptune.
Oh.
Neptune's playing with a toy over there. They're
Oh, I
eating in like
understand.
20 minutes, so they're all like,
Yeah, Rose doing the same thing. Now,
around.
we've just talked a lot of shit. And
Well, we talked a lot of reality.
we did talk a lot of reality. What would you tell humans that want to do this? What would you say to those humans outside of like, take it slow? Like, no one's going to take it slow. You're just going to do it. Like, what are actionable things?
That's so hard because everything I always say is just like, it is take it slow. It's like, be like gentle with everything, like be hyper aware of yourself and how people are treating you and how you feel about how people are treating you.
That's a really good way.
Really like, thank you. Really learn how to negotiate and negotiate in a more structured way than sitting on the tatami, like you said, like than sitting at, we're about to do the scene, let's negotiate. Learn how to negotiate more before that and learn that it's okay to say no. It's always okay to say no about anything, at any point before a scene, like texting with someone during a scene, whatever. And if someone has any kind of negative reaction to you saying no, get them the fuck out of there.
Yes.
Like,
yeah. Yeah.
like no matter what. And if you leave a scene feeling any type of like icky, that is important. Like listen to yourself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And vet people.
Oh my God. That's such a good thing to say. Like vet people. God damn. That's such a good, I think that the biggest is like followings get wiped away. So you have no idea who these people are doing stuff with. So no matter who it is, I would vet that person. End of story.
Yes.
Even if that, like, I would vet everyone. Just ask.
And if you're listening and you don't know what that means, it means like getting references. And when you vet someone in kink, do not vet them via their fucking girlfriend or like their most consistent rope partner. Like that, because that person's gonna be positive.
I gave positive. I look back at this and I feel awful, but I didn't know any better. I gave positive vettings when I really should not have. Because I didn't know any better because I was too close to it. But if you would have asked people right outside of the circle or anyone, they would have been like, oh yeah, that's bad news. Yeah. I think that having a sense of self that you don't have to say yes to everything when you're doing it is huge. Like saying no is empowering, and you should want to say no, and you should not want to tie with everyone or do any kind of BDSM with everyone out the gate. And saying no only makes it better later. Like you're have your like self-worth in mind and be like, I don't have to say yes to this to stay awesome. And saying no makes me stronger.
Empowered.
Yeah. I think that's probably what I would have done. Because I said yes to everything.
Oh, sorry.
Yes
I agree.
Anyway.
Also, I want to add to remind yourself that kink is not a competition. And I'll say that until my face goes blue.
That's hard.
There's like, there's like a quote that's like comparison. Like how bad comparing yourself to other people is.
Yeah, all joy is like the theft of joy and stuff like that or whatever.
Yeah. So like there's especially in the rope community, but in kink in general, it's so easy to compare yourself to other people. As a bottom, it's like, well, that person can take more pain than me. That person took a harder beating and they didn't make as big of a response.
Or more flexible or...
Yeah. And rope, like that person's way more flexible. That person's shorter. That person's skinnier.
Yeah.
Whatever. and like as a top, it's like, well, that person's a better rigger, whatever, or that kind of shit.
Yeah.
Although I will say it's a lot harder for bottoms.
Oh yeah, totally.
But if at all possible, just try not to compare yourself to anyone, and not even your past self. Just try to stay in the moment with experiences and focus on, did you have fun?
Yeah, just have
Or did you,
fucking
like,
fun.
Yeah,
That's all it is.
Did you have a good feeling?
Because every
like-
single day is different when you're doing something. Some days I could be hung by a big toe. And some days like I couldn't be in a TK. Like it's just so different. But it's hard. I even do that,
Oh yeah, I still do
like,
that.
Yeah, I do it with you all the time where I'm like, God, you could do this thing, like I do it. Anyway.
It sucks.
Yeah.
You just have to be mindful. The last little thing I want to talk about with kink, because we've been a little dark here. So why don't we? I know a little. Well, it lends to that sometimes. I want to what's something positive that you get from kink? What does kink do for you that you want to?
Go on, sorry.
That you keep engaging in it, like, you know what I mean?
Yeah, when it's good, it's so good. When it's good, it is the best. Like I love the fact that it instantly connects people. It's amazing. Like I feel like it offers a degree of connection in some ways that you cannot get other ways. Like I like Dawn and I tied the whole weekend, and afterwards it's like leveled up our connection.
Yeah.
That's cool. Like once you when all of us were tying together, that leveled up our whole connection. I feel like that's really neat. Yeah.
How about for you personally, beyond interpersonal connection, things like that?
I think it's I think it's one of the only things that it tests me. I'm like, oh, I can still do this. I'm still very strong. Because I like to suffer, So I'm like, oh, I did it. I did the thing. And I'm always nervous before. Always. 100% of the time I'm scared to death. I would say 5 minutes before the scene, I'm always like, I want to bail. Then I'm like, then we start and I'm like, fuck, this is going to suck. Good. Well, I'm like, fuck, this is going to suck. And then I'll sink in and I'm like, I'm good. But at the beginning, I'm always terrified. And then I'm cool. But that always feels good because you did it. You accomplished something. So a sense of accomplishment.
I think that's also an important thing to note is that, excuse you, Neptune, is that with any kind of BDSM play and stuff, like rope impact, whatever, it's not just physical toughness. It's also mental when you're bottoming, because you're at any point you could say, I'm done. Like you could quit if you really wanted to, but obviously, and at this point in our lives, we obviously both had the agency to do so.
Yes.
If we truly felt like that, we would be like, all right, cut it out.
Yeah.
But it's like the mental toughness of no, I want to do this. I'm going to keep going. This won't last forever. The end point of this is enjoyable. And even though I'm suffering so much now, it's like an enjoyable suffering.
Yes.
Which is so hard to articulate.
Well, it's like going on a hike and then having a beer after. That beer tastes so fucking good.
Oh, you've said this before.
Yeah, I have. I reuse that quote all the time. But it's like, it's like, you're really, really thirsty and you drink water. It's great. Really hungry and you eat. It's great. That delayed gratification it always feels better.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think on top of that, why I keep engaging in kink and what I really like about it is the suspension of time, where when you're scening, it doesn't matter if it's rope or whatever, nothing else matters. Like
Yeah.
the world kind of like halts, like your own personal world. You're not looking at your phone. You're not worrying about social media. You're
Yeah.
not like thinking about what you're having for dinner later, hopefully, whatever. You're in this scene, in this
Yeah.
interaction with this person, and it's all consuming. And all you're
Yes.
focusing on is whatever they're doing, whatever you're doing in response, your
Yeah.
pain management, whatever. And that's like a huge thing for me, like the mental relief of getting to like let go for
Yeah.
like some period of time.
You know,
You right over there?
yeah, I'm good. The thing that I think I would leave a new person with is always keep your wits about you. Always keep your guard up. Always never let that guard down when you're in a BDSM place, any kind of structure like that.
Mhm.
Always audit the situation. Is this healthy? Is this not healthy? Never be like, oh, I'm in a place that's beautiful with people that are asking my pronouns. I should not have my guard up. No, you should. You should still be aware of yourself and constantly asking yourself, is this healthy? And I do that
Mhm.
now even, right? Like, but it took me a long time to get there.
Yeah, that it just makes me think of, should someone who's new going into a place totally alone find themselves in an unsafe situation like that, what's your advice for them besides like fucking leave? Like, because it's like find someone, but how do you know who
I mean,
is good in the place?
well, yeah. Yeah, I mean, well, honestly, I feel like it's just like, just hang out. You don't have to do anything. Shopping for sex toys can sometimes feel overwhelming or dysphoric, but ShopNB.com aims to create a better experience for the queer, trans, and gender non-conforming community. As a Black and trans-owned sex toy company, the cuties at ShopNB are sensualists with a mission. 2% of all proceeds are donated to organizations focusing on improving the lives of queer and trans people of color. What's more, ShopNB.com is a carbon negative company, and every sale funds renewable energy and forest conservation projects. Visit shopnb.com, ShopEnby.com, and use the code GenderReveal at checkout to get 10% off and bring more pleasure and affirmation to your life.
Okay.
You know?
Well, what we were just saying, if you're a new person going to an event or a gathering or something like that, don't be scared to just hang out.
Yeah.
You don't need to play. You don't need to say yes if someone asks you to play. That's a great way to also kind of vet people, is watching them play. You should watch someone play before you agree to play with them. Just like as a thing.
Coming up with a phrase, and you can rehearse it, but being like, I'm not really playing tonight. I'm just hanging out tonight. Yeah. I do that all the time.
Yeah, and that's like perfectly acceptable.
Yeah.
Sorry, OSHA's meowing in the background because they're eating soon.
My tummy hurts. You can say that.
Yeah. Just say, I have my period.
Yeah. There you go. You can say that.
It's a great excuse for everything.
And no one can question it.
Yeah. So obviously we've talked a lot through this about like kind of the darker side of kink stuff and the propensity for things to be able to go that way because of power imbalances and stuff and secrecy that is like inherent to the kink structure, whatever. But obviously we're still here. Like we have stayed here because we take away from it something that is greater than that.
Yes.
And it has evolved with us to a point of, this is still something very powerful and positive for me. And I have renegotiated my association with it to somewhere that is more healthy and positive because I've like grown up basically. But I just think it speaks volumes to me that the shit that we've been through, which we haven't gotten very explicit on here for a reason, that we still want to do this.
Yeah.
like that's to me that's like really fucking cool.
Yeah,
And it
agreed.
shows how powerful kink and BDSM is
Yeah,
and how
it's
important it is to
fun.
people.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's just so fucking fun. It's great.
I mean,
like
it is fun. It's like beyond. It's like not to be all woo about it. It's like beyond just being fun to me.
Yeah.
Like, of course, all different scenes have different context and feelings behind them and whatever. Not every rope scene is going to be super fucking serious, like Zen mode. There's a lot of giggling and whatever, and no matter how serious the scene is with me, usually I am laughing at some point as the bottom, just because I'm weird like that.
So random.
Yeah, so random. That emoji. But to say it's not just fun to me is that like it is important for me at some points in my life to have these experiences of pain in a controlled situation that aren't self-inflicted, like highlighted by trusting another person to inflict said pain, but to hurt me, not harm me, is the distinction to me. And to get to experience pain in like a safe, sane, and consensual way that I get to come out on the other side feeling stronger and happier and whatever about myself versus like some self-destructive shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And that's
totally.
not, kink isn't therapy, everyone.
No,
kink is not therapy.
But you're also not comparing it to therapy.
No,
right?
no. Yeah. Yeah. I don't know the point of that, but
no, well, that is very true. People are always like, I can bring you in. We romance the idea of someone taking us into this space that is not on the earth, and we encourage it, right?
Yeah.
We talk about the trust of my top and things like that, and a lot of it's very, very true. But also a lot of it is romanced and exaggerated to the point where it turns into something negative. But that's not what you're talking about at all. And I feel the same thing. It's a controlled place where I can experience pain and release, because it's the same reason why I use the sauna, is it puts out bad feeling chemicals and your body rushes you with good feeling chemicals. And that's an awesome thing to do. But kink is better because it's with another person, and hopefully you like that person. You know what I mean?
And also it's the growing up in kink of when I was new, I felt I had no control. Like I felt I just agreed to whatever. Like there was no negotiation. It was a blanket consent situation with like my dom or whatever. I agreed to whatever, blah, blah, blah. Now I'm like, I'm in control of the situation.
Yes.
I tell the top or whatever what goes. I say what doesn't go. I can say in the scene what is not happening.
Yeah.
Like, and I truly I am relinquishing control in a controlled fashion.
Yes. You're doing it on your
makes
terms.
Sense.
Oh, it totally does.
Yeah.
I think there's also a degree of you don't know what you have to experience a bunch of stuff in order to be like, oh, I don't like this item. Right. And then now it's like I've explored a bunch of stuff and I'm like, oh, I don't like this thing, but I really do like this thing. So someone like Doll, I don't really give a lot of, I don't particularly like hair rope, but with her, I'm like, let's do it, because I'm like, I want to be safe. Right. And she's also going to be able to read my body. She's going to grab my hair and see how I react. Right. Whereas like a lot of other people wouldn't do that. They would just do the default only way they know how to do the item. Whereas like someone who's good is going to look at you and watch you and interact with you and give a fuck about you and not just care about doing the item
like a body
to the thing. Yes. It's like we often see people as just expendable resources to do our hobby upon. And that's not good.
No, it's terrible.
It's bad.
And also, I want to add for bottoms, Any bottoms out there listening? Anyway, uh, sorry. Um, all these things we're saying, if something happens in a scene that you don't like, but it's not like a scene ender, like you should feel um you should feel comfortable saying like, actually, I don't really like that thing. Can we go back to this other thing? Or like,
Yes, and it's
could
not
we?
your fault.
No,
It
it's not.
is all you're doing is you're steering the boat. And if the top
Yes.
can't say, "Oh, well, I guess we got to be done." Right? Like that's
Then
the
fuck them.
yeah, that's you don't that that top it doesn't know enough stuff.
Yeah.
But also, if you're a top, like as a rope top, I don't know shit. I got about 6 things in the old toolbox, right? So we're gonna do those 6, right? And if something's not going great, I'll just go back to square one and just focus on the person, right?
Yeah.
Like, so in a scene, the degrees of saying no for me, I look at no should not derail the scene if you say that as a bottom. If it does derail a scene, it's not your fault, and you should not internalize that as a bottom. It's really just a reflection on the top, because the top either one of two things: doesn't know another way of doing something, which is totally fine. So just revert back to something that's easier. So like if it's rope bondage, go to the ground and go into a little predicament and then play and connect, right?
Yeah.
Like if a waist rope thing isn't working or something like that, it shouldn't just be like, okay, end scene. And you shouldn't internalize that, because I feel like a lot of the words that are used are really, really negative. Like I've been told, like we didn't complete the sequence, right? And that means that there's a premeditated sequence that the top wanted to do, and I couldn't complete it. But it's okay. It's fine. It's fine. It's fine. It's not a big deal. We're both learning the sequence and labbing. That's totally fine. I understand it. But what that does is it puts all the blame on the bottom, right? We couldn't complete the sequence. It's like you kind of internalize that as like, I wasn't strong enough to maintain this shape while you dick around and try to look at what it is, and you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so I feel like changing the vernacular and the ways that we speak words are very important, and not internalizing those things is really important as a
and how we approach things, because I think that's where I lost the plot with rope, especially, and why I got burnt out or so like over it the way that I did, was because I was looking at it as like, I'm not saying there's anything wrong with this, for the record, if this is how you approach rope. It just obviously wasn't for me in the end, of like, I want to do the sequence. It's like step 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and this is what we do, and we're gonna hit all these things and whatever. And it takes, approaching it that way for me took so much away from the point of engaging in rope, which is connecting with another person, maybe them doing something creative, like with something spontaneous, something you don't expect coming, and it wasn't like that for me.
I think
that
also,
go on. No, you go.
I think it's okay to do that in the beginning, to have like, hey, we're going to have a lap time. I'm going to try to do this crescent moon shape.
Yes.
Whatever. But looking at it as a binary success fail, not good. It should be, hey, I'm going to try step 1 and 2 of this, and then we move into something else that's fun and connective.
Yeah.
You know, hey, can we try maybe get up to step 3? And then we're going to move into like getting that down to the ground and doing a partial, or moving that into something else that you're familiar with.
Yeah. Or if things do quote unquote fail, having a debriefing of what happened, what could, like, as the top, what could I have done differently?
Yeah.
What would you have liked more? Anything to like ask the bottom how they feel, and like what they were feeling if something went wrong, whatever, and not put the blame on them, like they made a mistake.
Yeah.
Is great. And also going back to one of the things you were saying earlier of a bottom steering the ship, so to speak, in a scene. I just want to reiterate that if a top has any kind of problem with that, that's someone you need to run away from. Because
Yes.
if I was topping and someone was like, hey, actually, I don't like this thing you're doing, my response would be, oh, like, totally, we're done that. What do you like more?
What do you like? Yeah.
Like, yeah, well, what do you like? What would you like to do?
Or do you like this? Even presenting
do you
three
want to try
options.
this?
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah. That's yeah.
Yeah, for me, it's not a scene over. Even when I tie people, like, and something's like, no, I can't do this, I'll be like, okay, we're coming down. I don't give an estimate of time because that's a lie always. But
Yeah.
I'll just be like, we're gonna come down and regroup on the floor. Like, and
Yeah,
then,
yeah.
like whatever.
Yeah, as a rope top, I have like 6 things in my arsenal. And then I go through the 6. And I'm like, all right, one's not working. I'm like, all right, we're going back to 1. We're going to square 1.
Yeah.
And we're going to connect
Take it
right
back
here on the
down.
ground, baby. You know, like.
Well, and as someone who's like moved beyond like suspension is everything in rope in my little life, I would rather fuck around with someone on the ground with 1 rope than have them try to unconfidently suspend me. Like, it's just it's not fun.
I agree fully. I agree fully with that.
Yeah. What's the next point?
What's the next point? I'm trying to think.
Just have fun.
Oh yeah, just have fun. That's the next point.
In kink.
Yeah, I feel like that's honestly it. If it's not fun, then don't do it. I definitely did a lot of things that weren't fun. If it's not fun, stop.
If like you're feeling pressure in any way, then it's not worth it. Like none of it's fucking worth it. Nothing's worth it for an Instagram post. Nothing's worth it for like your physical and mental health and safety. Like, also tying or like playing with a certain person and you think that it's like the end all be all. That is never true. I'm sorry.
It's just never comes
true.
out like that ever. It never comes out like that ever.
Yeah.
Ever.
I know there's a lot of weight put on DS relationships, and if it doesn't work out, I'm never gonna find another person like this. Same with like rope tops, same with whatever, but that is not how life is. And it feels awful in the moment, absolutely, but it is not how life is. And also, conversely, don't sacrifice yourself because you think that this person is the best of the thing. Like, this is the best rigger around. I don't care if they treat me like shit.
Yeah.
I want to be in their awesome rope. Fuck that.
Yeah.
I've done it
a lot. And it's just not.
It
is not worth it.
Yeah. Sorry, this just turned into like a whole bottom pep talk hour. But I mean, it's good though.
But honestly, like, I don't feel like, okay, to acknowledge the top struggle, I do feel like the tops get the burden of all the blame for everything that goes wrong. And that is unfair. And they also, they're the scapegoat in a lot of places. And that's hard. That's a lot of pressure. And we expect them all to have perfect track records. And that's just not possible as a top or a bottom. I do want to say that. And also, you know, in any kink, really, learning how to top takes significantly more time and effort and money.
Oh, yes. Than learning how to bottom.
Yeah. So I do want to acknowledge that. But with that said, there's an inherent power dynamic. With tops and bottoms, right? Like, the top now has put in all this money and all this time and has built all this expertise and things like that in order to do the item. So there's a power dynamic there. And I feel like a lot of tops don't really realize that. Yeah. Right? So I do think that bottom pep talk hour is very, very good, because top pep talk doesn't need to exist. You know, like, you're
Things
already
are often skewed.
you're putting in the effort to learn how to do the thing, right?
Yeah.
Like a bottom needs to know, like, oh, you're shitty at flogging. You're hitting me in the wrong places, right?
Yeah.
Like, but the likelihood of someone calling out a white cis dude that's flogging someone is low, right?
Yeah.
It's the bottom holds the responsibility to say, hey, this isn't right for me, right?
Yeah. And it's also like you said, the inherent power dynamic or power imbalance of
imbalance is better.
Even if you're not in a DS relationship with someone, it's like you're engaging in a DS scene. You, in a lot of cases, the bottom is a like generally femme that is far younger than the top, who is generally a man.
Yeah.
Like there's all these things that I don't care if you're like the nicest, most like caring rigor dude, whatever. If you are like in your late 30s or 40s and you're tying with 21-year-olds or playing only with 21-year-old like newbies, that's a problem. And you need to analyze what is happening with this inherent power imbalance that you are operating under with these people.
Yes. 1000%.
Boom.
Yes.
All right. On that note, episode over.
God. Yeah.
No, I don't. It is wrap up time, but I
listen, I feel like it's the good is shared in the world with rope, kink, whatever. The good is seen. We posted pictures on the twitter.com. We post stuff on places, but this part of it isn't really discussed. And this is the hard part, right? Like, with this said, I think that we should acknowledge the fact that after I tied with Doll 3 times, I mean, I was like glowing about it. And we reminisced in the car for 4 days about the scenes and how amazing they were and like all that kind of stuff. Like I still have little marks and things and I love them. And it's a reminder of that. And but that is a fraction, you know, of the stuff going on. Like, she's here for a wrap up. So I feel like that's why it is important to discuss this stuff.
Yeah. And it's also like, this is you after being involved in this for how many years?
Yeah.
You know, like I've been involved in kink for
a long
fucking
time.
14 years. Yeah. Like technically, and have really been up and down in it. Now we're glad to be where we are now.
All right. So for a wrap up, show us that new tattoo, that new tatty baby.
Oh,
turn around. Let's see it.
I hope my camera focuses.
Oh, look at that.
Can
look
you see
at
it?
that.
Or am I have to angle with the webcam?
What is that?
Where are we?
I see live, laugh. Where's the love part?
The love is actually above it's a tramp stamp.
It's above your, I got it.
Wow. Yeah, it's just above the butt crack. So
that's amazing.
That's a little kink tattoo kind of, because it says tough mutt.
Did it hurt? Do they hurt?
Yeah, it sucked. Yeah, do that. How long did that take?
Now, about how much money do you think you have on your whole body?
God, I don't even want to think about it.
Wow. Well, they do last forever, and that's something that you don't think about enough.
No, I definitely don't when I get them.
Look at
All
this.
right. I know she's got to go out. What are we wrapping this up with? What are the closing thoughts?
The closing thoughts here are always keep your guard up, audit the situation. Is this healthy for me? Is it not? No matter what. Those are mine.
Don't be scared. Don't be scared to ask questions. Don't be scared to say no. Don't be scared to express your discomfort. Well, discomfort that's bad. If you're doing something that's supposed to be painful and you want that, then that's fine. But
agreed.
Yeah. Just those things. Keep yourself safe.
Yeah.
Bottoms and tops, frankly, because things happen. But
well, that was the Corn Corner. It doesn't matter if you're cream. It doesn't matter if you're shucked. Just make sure that you're
kind corn.
That's it. Isn't that it?
That was That was a mess. Let me tell you what.
All right, do it for me. Let me hear it.
It was whether you're shucked or you're creamed. It doesn't matter what kind of corn you are, just as long as you're a kind corn.
God, you're so good
be
at it.
kind corn to each other.
God damn, you're so good at it. Wow. You're so good.
You know, I try.
We got a Halloween episode coming up, so everyone make sure to turn your calendars on.
Flip them on.
Flip the calendars on. The 31st, I think, is Halloween, so we're going to do a Halloween style
Set
episode.
your calendars.
Turn those to the on position. All right, everyone.
Yeah.
Let's walk away now.
Okay. Yay.